Yes?
We're heading out in about half an hour. You ready?
Just a few more things to pack and we'll be good to go.
Excellent. I'll be right back.
Did you want me to put on a Roy Warren disc while you wait for me to get packed?
Don't you think they'll find it weird that you're having your rabbit listen to these?
They'll probably think it's cute. Here, I'll get it ready. Oh.
What's O?
I'm just gonna let you know, buddy, this one might be a little different, alright? Just, keep that in mind, okay?
Alright.
Alright, here you are. Clumsy me. It's on. You kept everything spick and span, didn't you, Roy? Even this little piece of before. Damnation, Roy. Alright, it's alright, the light's on. This is what you would want. Good morning or afternoon, fellow Darklander. I am Gregarious Garrett, and I'm glad to see you're still alive and well. Things out in the Darklands are never normal, but depending on where you go, you'll be in for either an interesting story or a matter of life and death. By far the strangest things you'll encounter out there are the vast amount of cults and religious sects popping up all across the Darklands. Of course, these range from being really odd to really homicidal. Now, in my travels, I've come across both extremes, so for the sake of time and organization, I'll use 3 examples of both, starting with the Oddballs. Many cults derive their beliefs from legends and tales from the worlds before. Among them is the story of Paul Bunyan, a giant axe-swinging lumberjack, and his trusty, equally large blue ox, Babe. Yes, the world before was rather strange. Originating in Plymouth, a group of people came together under the Big Reds to start their own religion, Bunyanism. According to their beliefs, Paul Bunyan is some kind of forest spirit who embodies the spirit of America as a land rather than a country, thank God. Babe the Ox is supposed to be the spirit of water, further signifying the balance of nature. Being that Paul is a axe-wielding giant and Babe a long-horned ox, the Bunyanists believe that by disturbing nature one will face its wrath. Since its inception, Bunyanism has spread across all rural areas of central and northern California. Despite the ominous threat of destruction if one encroaches on nature, Bunyanists are mostly harmless. As long as you don't try burning down forests or polluting rivers, you'll find them not only pleasant people, but also some of the best moonshiners one can find in the Republic. Just don't think about the fact that despite Babe being male, they call it Babe's milk. By far the oddest cult I've ever come across is the Order of the Erect. The order resides in Eugene in central California with their leader Octavio. Now, the name may come with unfortunate implications, but it is actually meant to signify a man standing straight. This is because the order doesn't believe in sitting. Yes, the Order of the Erect doesn't like chairs or any way for a person to sit down. Octavio has stated that the center of the earth is a massive ball of natural energy that seeps into our body through our feet. He believes that by standing erect, this energy is able to flow through us and allow us to achieve peak condition, super strength, super reflexes, speed, all of that. When one sits down, he says that the energies flow through our, it doesn't flow right, and it restricts our prowess. Even shoes are prohibited in his compound, as these apparently block the flow completely. You may be wondering, how do they sleep? Well, I wondered this too. They sleep using sleeping bags and cords that allows them to hang from the rafters. According to some of his members, it's pretty uncomfortable, but they get used to it, supposedly. Still, a lot of them do seem a little sleep-deprived. So much for peak conditioning. Ah yes, now for one group that many Darklanders know of, as they are respected by Darklanders and feared by ne'er-do-wells. The Guild of Gary. The Guild was inspired by a world before tabletop role-playing game, and its initial members are descendants of those who continue to play it, even after the events of Black Halloween. The Guild has groups all over the Republic and the States, maintaining order and civility. These groups are broken into different classes. The leaders of individual groups are called Game Masters, and they are the topmost authority, making all the final decisions. Game Masters, or GMs, evidently have a range of different approaches to their respective groups. Some may follow the Guild's codex to the T, while others may use it more as a guideline. Some may try to emphasize humanitarian practices, while others may want to purge regions of all evildoers, such as Marauders, Sons of Samhain, and All Souls. Then there are Barbarians, frontline warriors who defend their guilds, often using that adrenaline drug racer to give them a chemical edge. Colonists and homebodies will know well the bards, the guilders who frequent colonies to entertain, either from singing, playing instruments, or even telling stories. These are the most beloved members of the guild. The Librarians will know this next group well. The guild members, called wizards, often conflict with librarians over the collection of lore and knowledge from the world before, and gathering and salvaging books and technology. I haven't ever met a wizard before, but from what I've heard, they are often pompous and pretentious. I also heard this from a librarian, so it's easy to say the person might have been biased. Anyway, then we have the rogues. Despite their name, these are essentially just the scouts for the guild, mingling with populations and listening in for leads on knowledge or resources to be found, or enemies to be destroyed. They say, unless a rogue states otherwise, you'll never know they're there. And there are the rangers, whose job it is to hunt down bounties and spy on potential threats so as to analyze the danger and plan the best means of attack. Now I know you're all waiting for it, so here it is. Finally we have the famous and infamous Paladins. These Darkland Crusaders are the destroyers of evil, the great foe of the wicked, and the smiteful hand against the forces of darkness. That quote came from the mouth of a paladin, by the way. Yes, they carry their creed on their sleeve, sometimes literally, and they take the job very seriously. They are the elite of the guild, whose fighting prowess is rivaled only by the barbarians. However, instead of farmers, paladins just need faith and burning determination to lead them to victory, supposedly. And now we dwell into the cults that you should steer far clear of. These are the people that Roy and I had encountered in our travels, so yes, this all comes from personal experience. By far one of the most disturbing cults we've ever found is the Temple of Twisted Flesh. These lunatics are murderers, slavers, and defilers who deify Jack the Ripper. The temple is broken up into 3 categories: rippers, claws, and maggots. Maggots are the unfortunate people that the claws capture, and the rippers experiment on them, using mutilation and brainwashing to turn them to devoted members of their cult. Roy and I found an old church the temple used to occupy, and found the windows covered in the flayed hides of human skin, rusty blades scattered throughout, the floor stained dark with dried blood, and then, out back, we found what could only be a mass grave, likely filled with the bodies of those who didn't survive the conversion process. Thankfully, the temple is in disarray after the Guild of Gary hunted down the temple's leadership to an isolated sect in Sacramento. The battle led to those rascals, the Paladins, dragging the leader of the temple outside, where he was publicly executed to the cheers of the colonists the temple had preyed upon for years. This next cult isn't new, but there has been an alarming spike in activity in recent years. The cult follows the policies and ideals of the controversial American president Nathaniel Carson. They believe in white supremacy, a thought process that history proves that only the cowardly and unimpressive tend to flock towards. Like Carson's documented talent of manipulation and deceit, the New Americans have managed to pull the desperate and disillusioned into their fold, with the empty promise of resurrecting the United States and destroying the Republic. It's all falsehood, but there has been a disturbing amount of people tuning into their lies. The New Americans were responsible for the resurgence of the North Aggression Movement, an organization to force or coerce colonies in the former Oregon and Washington territories to band together to secede from the Republic once and for all. I'm guessing this is strictly based on the principle than an actual secession. Roy and I find the whole concept of New Americans laughably pathetic. I mean, they are kidding themselves if they think any of their ideas are actually new. Now, this next group was one I considered not including in this lesson, but given the topic, I felt that I had to. Over the course of 12 years, I've looked into rumors and mysteries surrounding the Stone Ciphers. After a series of detailed investigations, numerous interviews with other sleuths, and even the testimony of an alleged former cult member, whose name will remain anonymous, I was able to compile an estimation of the Stone Ciphers and their beliefs. The Stone Ciphers began as a family whose lineage dates back to the early 1900s. From the beginning, they evidently were mired in mystery and intrigue, as they were fairly reclusive and yet had lots of influence in many different fields. In truth, they were a cult with long-reaching arms that had members great and small in their grasp. After Black Halloween, the Stone Ciphers supposedly fell apart, and the cult dissolved. But in my personal investigations, I believe this is false. In some circles, even saying the family's name supposedly brings great misfortune, and its members are rumored to have infiltrated most, if not all, colonies, both the United States and the Republic. If this is true, this would mean the Stone Ciphers have the power to manipulate events in the Darklands in any way they please. If I had skin, the thought alone would give me chills. But a cult of such magnitude would need an ideal to follow that is equal in scope, and this is where things get downright terrifying. Throughout the years, if I managed to find any document regarding the Stone Ciphers' deity, I found a strange habit the cult seemed to have where their patron was described in both masculine and feminine pronouns, or simply referred to as it. I almost chalked this up to simply different interpretations, but then in my interview with the alleged cult member, things became clear. The person referred to it as the Whisper, a formless entity that manipulates the minds of its enemies and followers alike. It is believed that when someone has a sudden shift in personality or does something out of character, it is the work of the Whisper. Cult members are taught that the Whisper is more ancient than the universe, possibly even older than the Christian God, and has been present in mankind since the dawn of its inception. What its great purpose is, I was told only the founder of the Stone Cipher family knew, and died without telling anyone the truth. Of course, this is all subject to your personal beliefs. For some of you, I'm sure this is a whole lot of nonsense, and personally, I don't put much stock into matters of the supernatural, but you can't help but wonder, what if such a thing did exist? And if it did, what would it want with a relatively young species like the human race? Like I said, it's all a matter of opinion. The only stock I ever put into groups like this, and their faith, is the potential harm they pose to the downtrodden and desperate. These groups and their ideals can twist reality for these people and turn them into brain-dead acolytes with no will of their own and no survival instinct outside the sanctity of their masters. At least, that's my perspective. These are just a few examples of the weird and the bad. Unfortunately, there are countless cults and religions out in the world, far too many for me to cover in one recording. This is one of the ramifications of the world going south, as Roy would say. So, if, in your travels, you find a group of people praying around a strange effigy in the middle of a forest, or a colony of folks who are either overwhelmingly bitter or excessively polite, I recommend steering clear. Steel your mind, watch your back, and don't drink the wine. I am Gregarious Garrett, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. That was for you, Roy.
All set. The coolant's burning. Is that rabbit listening to that player?
It keeps him occupied. Anyway, we're ready.
All right, good. Well, let's get going. We have a long drive ahead of us.
Ready to go, buddy?
Yes, brother, I am ready.